You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Well, folks, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. It is January 6th, very stressful as a day in America here, very stressful altogether. I hope you're doing well, but as promised, 2022 is shaping up into a disaster for America, a disaster for the world. I can't tell you because we're not allowed to talk and discuss what is being said about Cerveza bug and their procedures to prevent, help, etc. over in Europe. We can't talk about it at all. And I want to thank Frank for sending me a joke just now. It was a childhood picture of his. Funny stuff, Frank. Thanks, brother. It's nice to get these jokes. They kind of lift me up and give me a smile. But what is happening is pissing me off. 2022 is nasty. I'm glad I don't live up in Vermont or New Hampshire. I'm glad I don't live up in Illinois, Wisconsin, or Michigan. I'm glad I don't live in Washington State or Oregon. And I certainly am glad I don't live in Washington, D.C., folks. I want to ask you a question, though. I want to ask you a question about the America you know. Right? Is the America you know and grew up with the one where only illegal immigrants get to have the American dream and be labeled dreamers? Remember when we American citizens were allowed to have the American dream if we worked hard? When was the last time you heard about us, the American people, and our dreams? Right? Is the America you know now the one where censorship of free speech is promoted at the highest levels of government and media? And is that the same America we had when we were kids, young adults? I don't think so. Right? It used to be even the media would get mad if there was censorship, or the media would get mad if their privacy was violated. Certainly they knew that as the media, they would have to look out for us, the people, in order to ensure that they too had those rights. That's not what we have anymore, folks. Is the America you know, and remember, the America where liberty and freedom are considered dispensable, disposable, right? And even dangerous? Is that the America that we're supposed to know? Since when are liberties and freedoms and rights dangerous? Since when is the America I grew up in, our rights disposable, can be thrown away, right? Is the America you know and remember one where one's patriotism is judged as good, but only if they hate their country, their traditions, their laws, and their foundations? Right? That's the country of today. You're a patriot if you hate your country. How does that even make a lick of sense? Because look who hates this country: academia, the military, the Democrats and their presidency, mainstream media, social media, big tech. They all hate the America that you and I know. Right? I just want to know, what has become of the America that we know, love, and was granted to us by our forefathers? What became of it? Where is that America? It is incredible, folks. It's incredible. Barack Hussein Barry-Soetoro Obama reared his ugly head today and issued a statement accusing Republicans of undermining democracy. They don't have a message for America, folks. Barack Hussein Obama or Joe Biden or Kamala or Hillary or any of them, none of them have a positive message and political platform of growth, good American ideas. All they have is destroy America, open the borders, destroy the military, condemn half of America as deplorables. That's right, deplorables. Remember that? Remember that presidential nominee Hillary calls Americans deplorable. Hell, even Barack Hussein Obama there, what did he say? You know, there's a bunch of bitter Americans out there clinging to their guns and Bibles, meaning you and I. All they can do is cover their asses, give us distractions, and show us what shitheads and liars they are as they tear down America. Like I said, they don't have a plan for the economy, and they don't care if you have jobs. They don't. We'll just give you some welfare. How's that? That'll fix everything. Unbelievable, folks. You know, we got the president himself, Xi Biden, right? The big man. He said in his January 6th slapdown of America, he says, quote, "I didn't want to turn it into a battle between me and the president." I thought you were the president. Oh, he's calling Trump the president. That's getting some special attention. You know, he was asked why he didn't mention Trump by name in his speech. Well, folks, there is important steps that are being taken. There are important steps. You know, Biden has accused his political enemies of being the nation's enemies because they need to take these important steps to reach partisan and civil conflict, right? Joe Biden didn't mention Trump by name. No, he didn't. But he smeared him and he smeared us as domestic enemies the same way Biden, the Department of Justice, the Attorney General, the FBI, smeared Americans and called parents domestic terrorists. That's the America we have, folks. Now, you guys know I love satire. Yep, satire, satire, satire. Pelosi today, 90 Proof Nancy welcomed former Vice President Dick Cheney into the House. Today, Dick Cheney wanted to shit on America, shit on conservatives, and shit on patriots. Now, I'm sure that 90 Proof Nancy welcomed Dick like she has never welcomed Dick before, especially this Dick, to the surprise of us all. While he was in office, I seem to recall Nancy said she couldn't stand Dick and thought Dick was terrible, and that seeing Dick left an awful taste in her mouth. Folks, Dick left office in 2008, so this may be the first time Nancy has seen Dick in years and years. She was eager for Dick to come into her chamber. Nancy hasn't had Dick in there in a while, so she likely isn't used to receiving Dick properly. It's been such a long time for Nancy. She may not have even recognized Dick if he stared her in the face. Well, today Nancy used Dick for political purposes, pleasing herself well. And I'm sure the feminists weren't happy to see Dick in Nancy's chamber. Dick wouldn't get anywhere near a feminist anyways. Feminists don't like Dick at all. Most Americans thought that Nancy doesn't know Dick. Turns out Nancy knows how to handle Dick well. But it has been a long time since Nancy's cavernous halls have hosted such an important Dick. Democrats are surprised Dick would show up, standing erect on his own in front of a sour Nancy. It goes to show us all how modern medicine helps Dick rise to the occasion and enter Nancy's great room fully, even while seeing her grimacing lips. To the disgust of all, though, Dick spewed his vileness when he said he's deeply disappointed with Republican leadership on January 6th. No Republican applauded Dick's actions with Nancy. And when Dick pulled out of Nancy's house, he must have realized how much it has changed since he was there last. I'm sure this will be the last time Nancy sees Dick. And that's the story of Nancy Pelosi and Dick Cheney for January 6, 2022. I couldn't resist writing that, folks. I couldn't. I could not resist that. It was just too much. Too much not to cover. Now, back to the real world. Fear, 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 fear. This is the Q&A followed by, or the monologue followed by the Q&A. So be sure and get your questions into Jolene right now. But what is going on, folks? We are given nothing but fear. I'll give you humor. I'll give you satire. I'll give you some opinions. You get to think for yourself. We don't violate community guidelines. We don't glamorize violence the way the left does. They use fear and violence to control people, to try and control you even. Fear, fear, and fear. Moving away from Cerveza bug, moving away from January 6th politics. What are they doing? The media is saying the Northeast is bracing for a potential bomb cyclone. They've combined explosives used in war with a cyclone, right? A bomb cyclone, folks. We used to call these things snowstorms. That's right. Back when we just knew they were, it's what happened in the winter. You would get a storm, and then if it was cold, it would be a snowstorm. Then they started really sensationalizing the weather. They started calling things weather events. Weather event. There's a weather. Then we got the polar vortex and bomb cyclone. We started getting things like an atmospheric river. Unbelievable. Trying to scare people. Well, what I'll tell you, folks, is whether you call it a snowstorm, a blizzard, what a blizzard meant was, I think, winds exceeding 70 miles an hour. That is a snowstorm with high winds. Yeah. Now they want to scare you. Well, if they're going to scare you, I might as well take advantage of this opportunity and say, hey, looks like a bomb cyclone is going to sit on the face of Northwest or Northeast America. So get prepared. Get prepared if the power goes out, because the Biden administration, in all its ineptitude, has guaranteed, promised, hinted, threatened that power is going to go out, that we're going to have rolling blackouts and problems with the power grid this year. Funny how everything keeps getting worse and the government is not doing its job, because the government regulates the power industry and the, fuel industry, energy industry. Don't you think that they should regulate it and tell it to get its act together? Don't worry, folks. This is all part of their plan. But you should be prepared. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Have a plan, because you've got a bomb cyclone about to shit all over you. And yeah, it's always fear. I'm just telling you to get ready for anything, not because of fear, but because of human nature. It is human nature that is completely and totally predictable. Human beings who are in charge of other human beings and governments and have a lot of authority tend to become megalomaniacs. In fact, to want to, govern, administrate, typically you have to have some sort of megalomania in your mind anyways, right? Like you're big enough and powerful enough to run that and not have it go to your head. Anyways, here we are. Are you prepared? Bomb cyclone coming, folks. We have a Barack cyclone coming. We have a Biden cyclone coming. They don't want to back off, folks. They don't want to back off. I want to remind you, today we have more threats against our liberty coming out of Washington as they castigate and accuse and divide, and they use subterfuge, gaslighting, and lies to make you believe that, being yourself is wrong. Being a patriot is wrong. I want to remind you of what happened earlier back in 2021, right? The Michigan Attorney General, Dana Nessel, sent a cease and desist order to journalists demanding he erase his videos or he would face criminal prosecution. These are the types of things that the governments, the Democrat governments in place are doing. Right? They are threatening people, right? Political threats using taxpayer and government power, right? If these videos are lies, well, then they're not video, are they? It's fact. Video is showing fact. Interpreting that video, of course, is subjective. But the footage doesn't lie. It just shows what happened. And they don't like the fact that we can show them doing what they do. Lying, cheating, stealing, everything. basically everything is causing shit to hit the fan, right? United we stand, divided we fall. But where do we fall? You don't fall into utopia. And I think that's what the Democrats are pushing for. They keep promising a socialist utopia, but we first have to fall, I guess. We have to destroy the America we have. And that's what they're doing. Very scary stuff, folks. Very scary stuff. For example, right? I do not like to put statements out there where someone could say, listen to this guy, it's all hyperbole. It's all bullshit. He's just making this up. He's trying to scare you guys. No, I'm not. Today, I'm going to give you an example. Yeah, they are dividing the country. They are destroying the country. Today, Biden, President Xi Biden, he created an image for the American people to consider, if they would dare or bother to listen to this clown Biden. He characterized Trump and Trump supporters as domestic enemies in his speech today. He said, when we do things, it's like putting a dagger at the throat of democracy. January 6th, what happened was a dagger at the throat of democracy. Unbelievable, folks, right? I think that while they say there was a dagger at the throat of democracy, well, apparently democracy survived, but can the Constitution? See, I think it's far worse that the Democrats are using matches and blowtorches to burn the Constitution. That's far more damaging than just holding a dagger. But that is the divisiveness that they are painting, folks, calling for this, right? Painting Trump supporters, characterizing you and me and others as domestic enemies. It is 2022, folks. Shit is hit the fan. It's going to keep hitting the fan. It's not going to stop. I want to take you overseas, though, for a little bit here, right? Because Kazakhstan is continuing to be a problem. And as suspected, there is a problem there. There's a problem in Kazakhstan. Dozens are being killed, folks. The Kazakh police and the military, and I think Russian troops are now there. They're battling for control of the streets. It's being labeled a war zone. Banks are being looted. And the government has said that those who refuse to lay down their weapons will be killed. Now, who is right and who is wrong in this situation? Is the Kazakh government, are they bad? Are they wrong? Are the people there who are fighting literally in the streets, burning government buildings and looting banks, are they wrong? I'm just going to ask you a question. Does anyone want to see Mad Max like that here in the United States of America? Well, that's kind of what they pushed for, did they not? They, meaning the Democrats, by allowing BLM and Antifa to riot and riot and riot. This was my thought as this Kazakhstan thing is developed, right? I don't just want to read the news. I don't just want to read the teleprompter. I don't want to pretend like I'm a news source. I'm not. I'm a satirical commentator. But I'll tell you what the news is and what I think, right? Moscow declares now Kazakhstan unrest. They're calling it foreign inspired. They're saying that there's an attempt by armed and trained groups to overthrow the government of Kazakhstan. Right? This is in line with my thinking. I was saying what all of this rioting, this violence where people are now being killed, attacking the police, was over gas prices. I called bullshit then, and I'm calling it now. Right now, in 2020, the United States of America was in chaos over the St. George Floyd incident. Right? That was quite a bit different than, well, the prices at the gas pump are getting kind of expensive. Right? So why? Right? Why? It wasn't racially motivated. Maybe they take their gasoline seriously. I don't know. But this is from the article that was written. It says, in some instances, media pundits and independent geopolitical observers have increasingly openly alleged a foreign intelligence hidden hand behind the unrest. That sounds like the Central Intelligence Agency and the games they used to play. And they've been playing those games, folks, long before I was a Marine. They played their games then, and they played them well. They played them well in the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, all the way back into the 50s, the CIA, using hidden hand techniques, caused trouble. In fact, one of their first and most well-known and understood examples was Iran, when they had the Ayatollah removed and installed the Shah of Iran, tried making it a puppet government servant to the West and the United States of America. But here we are now seeing Kazakhstan. Let's see, where else have they been operating? Syria, Ukraine, Belarus, Egypt, Libya, Palestine. Where else is the CIA involved, folks? Lebanon, Greece, Turkey. Once again, we're seeing civil unrest over gasoline price, people killing people over gas prices. I could see protests, but violence to this degree, I just think it's really important for us to pay attention to what's going on in other countries, because it can happen here. We have agents provocateur here. Look what happened on January 6th of last year. We had peaceful protests that were suddenly rife with violence because the police launched, flashbang grenades and chemical agents into the crowd of protesters. And there were 4 people killed on that day, on January 6th, 1 year ago. 4 people were killed by the government. Those were protesters who were killed by police brutality. A lot of this stuff, folks, is never going to see the light of day until we are successful in pointing out this stuff, right? America needs to wake up. You are awake. Share these videos with others so they too can wake up and pass them on, right? A lot of people say we don't know Dick. I tell you what, I know all about Dick. Right? Dick Cheney, not a great guy. Nancy Pelosi, not a great girl. Barack Hussein, Barry Soetoro Obama, not a great guy. Joe Biden, what do you think of that guy? I say, let's go Brandon. He's a special kind of person. And now we're seeing that Moscow is declaring Kazakhstan foreign inspired, and that independent geopolitical observers are saying that it looks like foreign intelligence, in other words, CIA, Mossad, and MI6, are involved in Kazakhstan. What is the point of that? Understand, folks, there's a point to it all. There is. There is, folks. I don't even know if I want to talk about this guy. I guess I will. Lawrence Tribe, along with other congressional Democrats, are working to prevent President Trump from ever running again for president. Folks, they're interpreting the 14th Amendment. They're using their interpretation, and then they change the meaning of words. That's called sophistry. And then they just tell flat out lies. They're trying to justify, how are they going to do this? They would have to sue the Trump campaign and bring up this ridiculous argument they're making. But that is what we have, folks. If they're speaking an entirely different language and interpreting the Constitution with an entirely different language, that is why this country is falling right now. They're not using English. They're using a language that they invent every day. They make up meanings for words. Right? That's why they were able to call January 6th an insurrection, because they've changed the meaning of the word. They want to change the meaning of the 14th Amendment, the words used there, to justify saying Trump cannot run. If they can say Trump cannot run, why not change the words and justify so Governor Abbott or Governor DeSantis can't run? Why not just change the words to everything? Well, folks, they're doing it. They're doing it right now. Every chance they get, folks. Every chance they get. Systemic socialism, folks, fails. You want another failure? You want to see how sophistry and misinterpreting the Constitution, what it does? Well, in St. Louis, folks, medical support is failing. Hospitals, ambulances, first responders. There was a caller who was on hold in St. Louis for 13 hours while waiting for medics and an ambulance. Does that sound right to you? This is what they're doing by changing the interpretation, changing the meaning of words in the rules. St. Louis is a Democrat shithole, just like Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York City. They're bringing the country down. I recommend and think that everybody should be prepared for things to get much worse. I also think that everyone should be prepared for things to get out of hand. I'm going to point now overseas to Scotland as an example. They speak English in Scotland, right? They have the same basic root, the common law to their country. And somehow they seem to just forget this idea that we have a right to live our lives. In Scotland, a newspaper is asking its readers if cerveza bug internment camps should be introduced. What makes them think this is a good idea? What makes them think that we should be asking this? Right? Because they're not asking it in a rhetorical fashion. I don't believe they're asking it, folks, to say and point out how wrong it would be. They're asking to see if the people support it and it's justifiable, because they're reinterpreting, what the government has the actual authority to do. And they're completely ignoring history the same way the Holocaust Museum in Illinois, right? The Holocaust was about Jews being killed by the Nazis for being Jews, right? For being unpopular with the current regime. So the Holocaust Museum says, show us your papers, prove to us that you are good with the regime. And if you're not good with the regime over cerveza bug, then you're not allowed. Right? It's hypocrisy. They're ignoring the lessons that history have taught us. Right? They're showing us that they're obsessed with destroying this country. Folks, the media and Democrats are obsessed with January 6th because they have no policies. They have nothing productive for the future. So they keep looking to the past. January 6th, they'll keep looking at Trump, someone they can demonize, and they'll keep reinterpreting and interpreting and making up rules as they go, right? Remember, it was Barack Obama who said healthcare and access to it is a basic human right. But the same Barack Hussein, Barry Satora Obama, that same guy will come out and say, you don't have a right to health care and access to it if you are not Jim Jones juicinated, if you're not fully juicinated. That's a position that they like, that they would love to justify. How can the two come together? And especially since, folks, I believe that Black Americans do not trust the healthcare system, they do not trust the government, and they do not trust the Jim Jones juice. I think percentage-wise, as a percentage of the population that could be characterized as Black Americans, they are some of the least juicinated because they do not trust. So where's Barack on this? Is he saying that his own people, right? People like him are the bad guys? Right? It's incredible, folks, their hypocrisy. So when he was president, they all had rights to healthcare access. And he was speaking of people of color or minorities, that they're being discriminated against and they have to have access. So we need Obamacare. Now he's saying you don't have a right to that access because you haven't performed well. You haven't made the current regime happy, right? Isn't this incredible when you point it all out? Get your questions into Jolene because we're going to swap on over. We're going to switch over to the Q&A section in a few moments. But India has said F you to Big Pharma because they don't trust. They have seen some bad things. Isn't that interesting? Right now, I completely trust I can completely trust our government. Oh, you bet I do, right? Because satire, folks. I completely trust them to tell me the truth. But India does not trust big pharmacy. No, no, no. Apparently they don't like Merck. There's a lot of mistrust out there, folks. I'm not telling you what to think or what to believe. Just understand what is happening. Understand, folks, there's a lot of mistrust out there. That's right. Yep. Banks being looted. Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. Let's do this. Let's get to you guys. Let's see what you have to say, what you're thinking about, what's on your mind. It is January 6th. What questions, comments, observations do you have? I'd like to hear them.
Are you ready?
Here we go. Jolene, who's up first? And she always gets to pick. I don't know what's coming, folks. When we do Q&A every day, I want you to be on Patreon. You need to be on Patreon. If you're on YouTube watching this, you need to be on Patreon because you can watch it live. You can send in your questions. You can participate. And we have, if you like the comment section, of videos, while we're doing them live on Patreon, you're going to have an even better time because of the quality of content and the quality of the commentary there. So yeah, Patreon, $2 a month, 7 cents a day. Get on there and you can participate and do Q&A daily and be even closer to the action. Let's do this. We got David checks in. He says, I greatly appreciated this morning's topic. If you were a betting man, which manufactured calamity would you say is the one that will tip the scales into Mad Max? Or will it be a combo? If I was a betting man, and folks, I'm not a betting man. I play things as close to the vest as I can. I keep a close eye on everyone else at the table. And I think it's gonna be probably a combination of many things. But what I'm thinking is there's going to be like a lot of tension and friction economically. There's going to be a lot of tension and friction and fear from Cerveza-Bug. There's going to be a lot of problems, right, politically with the country and militarily. I think they're going to keep ratcheting this stuff up. But if I was a betting man and say, what is the one thing that would push us right into Mad Max? It won't be fuel prices. It's going to either be more Antifa BLM stupidity as we get closer to the elections, or it would be some dramatic attempt by the government to arrest people on the grounds that they are insurrectionists. I haven't heard any talk of this by anybody, no promises or even threats, but we know people like Beto, the Democrat idiot who ran for president. He's all about gun confiscation, along with Eric Swallow as well, the Democrat out of California who was sleeping with a Chinese spy and still is on the Intelligence Committee in the House of Representatives. Boy, that's interesting. You can sleep with a foreign national spy and still be privy to and voting on national secrets with regard to intelligence. Unbelievable stuff. Let's see. Who else hates guns? Oh yeah, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, the entire Democrat Party, Joe Biden. Yeah, they hate guns, and it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't claim that another group other than parents were terrorists and that they had a big push to arrest a lot of insurrectionists. Now, as preppers, I don't feel we're insurrectionists or even close to it. Right? I am a nonviolent person. I'm not a threat. But I think there's probably groups out there that are very actively pissed off. I do know that the government thinks parents are terrorists. I do know that the government thinks that groups such as the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers are dangerous. I know that they think Trump and Trump supporters are dangerous. I know that they think that. They're scared to death, folks. They really are. They're scared to death. They're quaking in their little boots in Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, Antifa and BLM are just fine. So that's what I would think. If I was a betting man, the manufactured calamity would be a false flag, terrorist action, blame Republicans, and then try and go after certain groups and arrest them. Wouldn't surprise me. I mean, we had January 6th, folks, and then the FBI went around the country and found people that were there and started arresting them. And many of them are still imprisoned, incarcerated in D.C., in the gulag there, and have not been treated very well. In fact, I think it was Reuters or the Associated Press. I think it was the Associated Press that said any complaints about the way prisoners are being treated is a conspiracy theory. That just came out today. So now we have like the Associated Press and Reuters. Those are like the news for the news. They just get their headlines, like your local television or radio channel. They just like tear a sheet off of the Associated Press printing scroll, and they read that, right? So the press, the Associated Press and Reuters is the news service for the news. Something happens, they spread the word. Now they're saying, oh yeah, that's a conspiracy theory. So never mind all those reports coming from prisoners who are within the District of Columbia prison system, right? What do they know? They're just prisoners, right? But they know a lot. They know they're being treated or mistreated. But any reports coming out of there, that's a conspiracy theory, right? These aren't the robots you're looking for. This isn't the truth that you see with your own eyes or hear with your own ears. Unbelievable what's going on. Let's move on if we shall. The Slim One says, I wish they would quit calling us all Trump supporters. I'm a supporter of good morals, and that's why they don't call us that. They don't call us moralists. I think I really like the way you address this. While I support Trump's efforts to make America great again, that doesn't make me a dyed-in-the-wool Trump supporter. I support harassing politically the Democrats. I liked how President Trump did that. He triggered them. He used memes. He called them to the carpet. He called them names. When they fought with him, he fought back. I appreciated that. I approve of that because they don't understand anything else. I liked them being upset with Trump. In fact, he is still inside their heads so deep. He's not president, and they still can't get over the fact that Trump exists, that he breathes air. He really made them mad. And I actually like that. Does that make me a Trump supporter? Well, I support that activity, but I do support morality. I think that is probably one of the greatest things you can be a supporter of. Morality, decency. I support law and order, peace and tranquility. And as much as Trump supported those things, then I support him. Right? He did not take us to new war. He kind of got the situation in North Korea calmed down. He got the situation in Iran calmed down. Now, I know that one general was killed, and I find that highly suspicious. I don't blame Trump for that. Right? Did he get us into a greater war in Syria, or did he get us out? Now, conversely, Joe Biden has gotten our troops out of Afghanistan, but he did so in such a manner that our servicemen were killed, that Afghanis were killed, that terrorists took over and took control of our bases, and $85 billion worth of equipment, hardware, and they got a completely upgraded infrastructure that we all paid for. That's what our good buddy Biden did. But yeah, I think you could call me a moralist. I want a moral government, not corruption. But yeah, the media can't call us that. They can't say, yeah, the moral majority. They used to use that as a pejorative term, but they've kind of quit using that term a long time ago. You know, they want to say we're terrorists. They want to characterize us as bad. And if you're a Trump supporter and Trump is an insurrectionist, then you're an insurrectionist. They do this in shitty little third world countries. In unsophisticated countries like post-World War II Spain, right? They would characterize the supporters of any political figure that they didn't like as bad, and then they would go arrest them and kill them. The way, I don't know, that fascist in Spain did, General Francisco, whatever the hell that guy's name was. Oh yeah, they do this in South American countries, these banana republics. Is North America the United States of America? Washington, D.C., is that a little teeny banana republic using its power and influence to affect the rest of the planet? It sure is. Let's move on, if we shall. We got fourth dimension. He says, when the Democrats refer to democracy, they mean globalism and communism. To Democrats, patriotism equals terrorism. Reality is patriotism, right? Patriotism is freedom fighters. But they want to call us terrorists, and we are patriotic. So they've redefined everything. Thank you. Fourth Dimension is Kaz, the Fourth Dimension channel. I recommend subscribing there and checking out his vast social media empire. I didn't finish up with him yet. I think there was one more line there, Jolene. Let me check it out on Kaz. He says, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And that is true. And it was back in the 90s under the Clinton administration that federal law enforcement started to point to the founding fathers of the United States of America, started pointing to them and saying, in today's world, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, all of them would have been labeled domestic terrorists because they opposed the regime and they were willing to stand up and fight them. That was when this really started to get out of hand, when the government started looking at patriots and freedom as something that was anathema to an overpowering, overbearing, centralized government. Well, that's exactly what we have now. Government is now so overbearing and centralized that we're supposed to worship and obey every governor as if they know and give a shit about the rest of their state other than their state capital. Same with Washington and the president. We're supposed to allow an overbearing, centralized control of our entire nation, because Dr. Fauci says, or Joe Biden says, or Kamala Harris says. Right? I can tell you folks, Gavin Newsom in California, when the greatest, biggest, largest forest fire, which just happened last year, burned through California and burned complete cities to the ground that the mainstream media doesn't talk about. I know where Greenville was. I visited it a couple of times. It burned to the ground. Gavin Newsom showed up to take pictures. Did not talk to anyone, didn't do anything to help the people that lost. It was a photo op for him. All they give a shit about is their city, their capital. That's all they really give a shit about. And they want to control everyone and tell everyone what to do. You think Gavin Newsom has gone to extreme Northern California and found out how the people are living and how they're living freely with no masks, living and behaving as normal human beings? No, that's not the picture he wants to paint, right? So anyone who opposes him is actually patriotic because they want freedom and liberty and they want it for all the people. And so they say Gavin Newsom is a tyrant. But now the tyrants are in charge, you see, so they get to point to patriots and say they're terrorists. We're going to have trouble. We're going to have a lot of trouble. Let's move on if we shall. We've got Latin American preparedness, and thank you, Latin American preparedness. You have often great topics of discussion. He says, some politicians, both in the Senate and the House of Representatives, are not seeking re-election. 90 Proof Nancy is planning to announce retirement by not seeking re-election in the midterms. Thoughts? There is something very strange going on. I wish I could put my finger on it, because I know nationally the Democrats are trying to take control of state elections, election laws, redistricting lines. I know they're wanting to pass a national system to control elections, to allow mail-in ballots everywhere, to outlaw requiring the proof, showing proof identification. It's incredible, right? They're taking all of these steps, but I think they know that those steps are going to fail. And if they were to succeed in any way, they would be found unconstitutional. This midterm election, I think, is really gearing up into something ugly. So far, 24 Democrats have said they're not running for re-election in the House of Representatives. I don't know how many senators. You see, every 2 years, 1/3 of the Senate is up for re-election. So there's essentially 33 seats. That's the average, 33 seats that are up for re-election. Half of those, or approximately half of those, are Democrat. So let's just go with averages. 16 or 17 Democrat seats are up for election in the Senate this year. Every single seat in Congress is up every 2 years. But yeah, Nancy is apparently saying she is not going to run for, she doesn't want to be the speaker anymore. Nancy has also bought property on the ocean in Florida. Boy, do I feel bad for the people of Florida, knowing that scallywag is going to be down there somewhere. I think over close to Trump, in fact. So what is happening? And I know this is kind of, shall we say, it's a little bit of a conspiracy theory, but maybe we won't call it that. Maybe I'll just say I'm prognosticating. Do you recall when President Trump was running for 2020 re-election, there was a claim by the Democrats that he was going to create a martial law scenario and cancel the elections because he was so afraid of Joe Biden. Right? There's always that claim. When there's a Democrat president, there's the claim that, oh my God, Obama's going to cancel the elections and stay in office. There's always that fear. But we're seeing something different this time. A lot of people saying they're not going to run for re-election. What are the odds? Now we've got Biden, Joe Biden. He is going to leave office probably before his 4 years are up. He's not in good shape physically or mentally. Certainly mentally. Is there a chance that there could be an incident and we have so much disruption that there isn't an election in 2022? We have Democrats saying they're not going to run again. Do they know that there's not going to be a Congress in 2022, 23, 24? Do they know that? Let's look back, folks, if we shall. Let's go back about 90 years to Germany. We had the rise of the socialist government called the Nazi Party. They were taking more and more power. They were getting more and more people elected. They got enough power, and then their Congress caught on fire. It's called the Reichstag fire. And after that, Chancellor Hitler became the dictator, the Führer, the boss. Could we have Biden declare himself the boss if there's a huge terror event in 2022? See, the Democrats know they're going to lose the House. Rather than give up that power and lose the House, would it be more amenable for them and their great reset if they just canceled Congress and said, well, we don't really need Congress. We just need a really strong leader, a smart guy, right? Like Biden. He can act in an emergency situation. He can take care of everything. Is it time, I'm asking, for America to have a great event whereby FEMA and the FEMA zones are brought into action in such a huge and calamitous emergency that we have emergency war powers enacted in controlling the United States of America? Is it possible? Well, it's possible, and I'm not trying to create fear. I just want the possibility to be understood and out there. It's been a possibility in the past. It's something that the Democrats claimed Republicans and Trump would want to do. So can we turn that around and point all of that back at the Democrats? I think we can. I think we should. Hey, Steve, I want to thank you. I just got the PayPal donation you sent me. I appreciate that a bunch. And I just saw that, and I turned back down here and look at the computer, and lo and behold, Steve, USMC, no tolerance. Semper Fi, brother. He says, remember this? Y2K, bird flu, swine flu, market crash, North Korea, Mayan calendar, Trump's wars, and now the cerveza bug. All these things were going to kill us. So what do they have left to come after us? I don't know, brother. I have no idea, Steve. But I think it's coming. Whatever it is they're going to pull. I mean, let me remind you of a couple other things that happened. Let's see. Missing nuclear warheads, missing radioactive material equals dirty bomb. Dirty bomb going off. If you recall, also, we had all of the zombie activity, and we had the CDC actually put out warnings that we were going to have a zombie apocalypse. Yeah, it was a joke, but was it? I mean, this very interesting video went around this morning, and I caught it. And it was a man, presumably in Israel, who was fully juicinated, according to the reports, and he had smoke pouring out of his nose and mouth, right, as if he was spontaneously combusting. And it was speculated that he's got a lot of metallics in his body, and that there was a directed energy weapon pointed at him, and that he was literally combusting. We have a lot of weird shit on this planet. And I don't know what is going to happen. What could they do? They could do anything. We could have a series of natural disasters. You know, could a massive volcano explode? Could we be invaded by another country? There's so many possibilities. And, I don't live in fear from it. I just know that the people who are in charge, the big ones up top, right? They always want to take control and have absolute and total power over everyone. Like I said, in Germany, they had enough political momentum and media support that the Nazi regime just looked at the Reichstag fire, whether or not it was started intentionally. They looked at the burning of Congress in Germany and said, we don't need Congress anymore. And now we have Congress saying, we're not going to run for our positions anymore. Why would they do that? They don't want to give power back to the ultimate evil, right? Trump and the Republican Party. That's basically what they're doing, is they're ceding control. They're giving up control to Trump and his evil Republican Party of terrorists. Or do they know that there's not going to be a Congress after 2022? Is that a possibility? What could happen that would cause that? The Slim One asked, John, how much do you know about HARP? H-A-R-P. Just wondering. Well, it's H-A-A-R-P. It's like the high altitude aerial phenomena, radar phenomena. It's been a long time since I've studied the HARP thing, but it has been around a long time. I heard about it back in the early 1990s. I think the earliest I heard about HARP was back in 94, and there was a book that came out called Angels Don't Play This HARP, and it has to do with national security, weather modification, and bouncing high amounts of energy off of the ionosphere and creating weather effects. It started as an experiment to monitor the stratosphere atmosphere between the United States and the Soviet Union. It's old Cold War technology that has been modified and continues to be modified and used, and it's claimed that it is a big part of weather control, right? That they can steer and direct, increase the power of storms, hurricanes, blizzards, etc. That they can direct and change, the high and low pressure systems to move weather events around. Like I said, the claim is that they can steer hurricanes. Now, since the 1950s, the United States military has openly claimed that they would love to use weather as a weapon. Congress has from time to time released documentation stating that they want to control weather. Chemtrails in the sky were supposedly tied to HAARP, weather control, weather modification, and to be used as in this great experiment, playing with the weather. Meanwhile, we're told that if you emit a little bit of carbon, if your cow farts too much, you're destroying the planet. And little snotty teenage girls from Sweden are allowed to shame us all, right? And tell us that they're all going to die in 10 years. Their lives are destroyed because of us, while the government is energizing the ionosphere, shooting, megawatts of power around the planet, seeding the clouds and spraying chemicals everywhere, but they're just fine. But if you, right, don't wear your mask, you're threatening the planet. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff indeed. Now, moving on with William C., he says, why did whoever pick Georgia for the guidestones? Well, that would be nice to know, William, wouldn't it? See, the Georgia guidestones are these giant, they look like the trilithons at Stonehenge. It's actually also been called America's Stonehenge, the Georgia guidestones. One day they weren't there, and then the next day they were. They just appeared. And it's not well known or known at all who put them there. There is an organization, a foundation, I believe, that was responsible for acquiring the land and setting them up. But they were set up in the 1970s, the Georgia Guidestones. And if you type in on your internet search engine, hopefully you're using something like DuckDuckGo. I still like Yahooing just because I like to Yahoo. But certainly I don't like Googling. But yeah, whatever you use, Google, right? Search Georgia Guidestones and find out when they were set up, who set them up, right? And why did they pick Georgia of all places? It's all speculative, but the group that is responsible for them is kind of mystical, kind of anonymous. Now, a Sandman Will Survive writes, with Mexico cutting their oil export and Indonesia cutting their coal exports, will they use that as their excuse for inflation because of money printing? Yes. Yeah, what they're doing is they're creating shortages in all countries. The United States is not the only country that has infrastructure problems, delivery problems, supply shortages. The entire world does. And they're using that as the excuse or the justification, to explain why things cost so much more. That's what they're doing. They're printing US dollars like they're going out of style. And foreign countries like China, Russia, and others are saying, we don't want United States Treasury notes anymore. Why would any other country buy a US bond that's going to pay them 1.5%, 1.75%, or even 2%? Why would they want 2% interest when the money is being devalued through inflation at 10%? It is return-free investment guaranteed, right? I don't want my money or my investments to be worth less as time goes on. I would want them to be worth more. Folks, your preps, your food, they're worth more every day because the government is making the value of the dollar go down, which means the cost of everything goes up. That's inflation. And all countries are messing with their oil, their energy, right? Coal, oil, natural gas, that's energy. That's electricity, and everything requires it, whether it's to turn on the lights in your office or to power your vehicle down the road, whether it's an EV or fuel. It's all energy. If you're not the one hoofing it, in other words, walking or running, you have mechanical assistance that requires energy to get you there, to transport goods and services, to bring you food, to grow food takes an incredible amount of energy. I'm not talking about just the sun shining on the green leaves of the plant, but the cultivation on an industrial scale of fields in order to create food, to grow food, to get it in the ground, and then once it's grown and harvested, to be processed and delivered, packaged and sent to stores, where then you can call Uber or some food delivery service, or you can go get it yourself at the store. Everything takes so much energy. Incredible. Uman checks in and says, ultimately, history will determine who was the freedom fighter and who was the terrorist. And that history, my friend, my brother, that history will be written by the victors. That's right. History determines, and the victor gets to write the history. We won't know until after it's done, in other words. Thank you, Uman, very much, and thank you for all you do. I enjoyed the video you put up of your trips and where you stayed, where you went, and I'm so glad that on the way back you guys stopped by. It was absolutely fabulous seeing you and others. Folks, it's January 6th. Shit has hit the fan. Are you prepared? Are you ready? Do you see what they're doing? Do you see where we're heading? Is the world getting better, or is condemning you as Americans, you as patriots, you as parents being designated, characterized as terrorists by this government? Do you see that as making things better for us, you, me, our children? I don't see it that way. I see shit hitting the fan for a long, long time. So it's best to be prepared. Folks, chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Semper Fi, Godspeed to all. And I'll see you very, very soon. Share these videos with everyone. Share, share, share. I'll see you guys later.
Screw your freedom.